I'll answer any questions for you.
Open up front row, Bill.
Yeah, this is Braxton's last game, obviously. Could you reflect
Last
on
game in the stadium.
Last game at the stadium. Sorry. Could you reflect on his career, what he's meant to Ohio State?
Oh, it's immense feelings we all have for him, and because we all know how average we were, especially on offense, our first year. And if you don't have that kid, you start your coaching career here at Ohio State with a 500 or 8-5 or 4 or whatever it is, and if you don't get momentum, then those other great things just don't. It doesn't happen. It certainly doesn't happen in that kind of time frame. And Braxton was a ultimate competitor, and is an ultimate competitor, and so it just means a lot to us.
You update on the injury situation? Are there any injury updates?
Paris Campbell's good to go. I think he played a little bit special teams last week. I think everybody's good to go.
Front row left, Doug.
Urban, I know you had some great leaders here from the guys who you inherited when you got here, but these fourth-year seniors are the first guys that you had all the way through. For any coach, when you get those guys that they know your way from the first time they come here as freshmen, when you sort of reach the point where the whole team is guys that have been with you the whole way through, how is that different, or how do you maybe view guys like Perry and Washington and Decker that you have known since their first day they were freshmen?
Well, Lou Holtz used to always remind me, he said, a lot of times you do your best coaching when you just take over, because you don't really care. You don't know their families. Sometimes you don't want to know their families. You just and then then you get the emotional ties, like very emotional ties with some of the names you just mentioned. But you mentioned that 2012 group, and that is good a group of leaders that we've ever been around. And then this group would challenge them because there's still a lot of football to be played. But there is a difference because I didn't know those kids. By the end, we certainly did. But for those first 6 months, it was odd, or just wasn't comfortable because you just don't know each other and you don't necessarily like each other, but you have to coach them because you got a job to do. And then you turn out and you love those guys like we did. So it is different. You just really learn to appreciate ones you're with for that long, for 4 years, and those are usually the relationships that last for 20 years.
Far left, Matt.
It's one of those obvious questions, but they're very good. Michigan State turnover margin, third in the country. Just can you speak of in a game like this? Because I know that's been a concern of yours. How important that aspect of the game is going to be.
Well, it's just obvious. I think right now we're one of the top teams again in field position. Last year, I think we were #1 team, and that's Kerry Combs always does that. I want to say we're second or third right now in the country in field position. Average start offense, average start defense, and then you combine. And I don't have that in front of me. That's something that we study, look at, evaluate that, and the turnover margin in big games. It's stating the obvious, but that's the obvious. And turnovers along with field position. And field positions created by lack of penalties on special teams. When you get a chance to pin a team down in there, that's where I think we've done a much better job this year. Our defense is doing a good job keeping them there. You remember, there's nothing more demoralizing. You pin them down there, and the next thing you know, you're at the 50-yard line.
I also want to just ask you, Mark D'Antonio, he's kind of raised the level of Mark D'Antonio since he's been at Michigan State. Just what does when you coach against his teams, is there anything that stands out about what he's
Sure. I think, you put the top 5, 6, 7 coaches in America, he's certainly there, and you just watch. I always watch special teams, and I always watch the little things. It's one of my own little tradition on Sunday, what you just mentioned, turnover margin, those type of things. And I've known Coach for a long time, and we're friends. I wouldn't say good friends, but we're friends, and it's obvious what he's done for that program. I've always had great respect, even back at the Notre Dame days, for this team. Good fan base, good stadium, and kids are usually tough guys, and I know our players, they respect him as well.
Front row right, Austin.
Before the first rankings came out, you said you might address it with the team, that you felt like you didn't need to. It's been a couple weeks now. Have you felt at all like you needed to talk about?
No, it's a good question. I usually do. I haven't. I usually just call a little State of the Union when all that stuff starts. I think maybe a boom, but this is a good group to go coach, and they know we have to get better. So not really.
Has this system where it expands to 4, and you guys have been through it, maybe that's part of the issue. issue that you don't have to talk about it, that you've seen what happens. But it seems like there's a greater emphasis now on conference championships, which has always been the goal that you've tried to focus on anyway. Does that make it easier for you, lessen the amount you might have to talk about with them?
I have no idea, Austin. I mean, we're just going to have a really good Thursday practice and try to win the turnover ratio and field position battle. And I think what I think has happened, I think the conversation and your guys' jobs and fans, and I think it's over the top for all of us guys that do this stuff. What's going to happen is going to happen, and do the best you can to coach your team.
Front row middle, Dave.
When you have such a big recruiting weekend, I know you can rely on your staff like Mark Pantoni and some of the other guys, but how do you balance what you need to do to get your team ready and give the recruits the time they need and their parents and everything that goes with it?
Tough. It's when you have official visits on a Sunday, especially with what's coming next and where we're at in the season. But a lot of them want to experience this atmosphere, so we have a lot of guys coming. It borders on ridiculous if you saw our schedules but you got to do what you got to do, and weather's not going to be great, but it's not going to be awful, so it'll be a good visit for guys.
You find yourself saying, okay, I got to make sure I get spend time with this guy.
I don't. People are
telling you.
I need you here, I need you here. Yeah. It's your third breakfast today, Coach, I know, but it's all right.
All right, final set of questions, Tim?
Yeah, Urban, when these seniors come running out on Saturday, who is the fellow that, as you think about these guys, who has made the biggest impression on you, or maybe obviously Braxton, but then past him, who's made the biggest gains or strides in your mind that you might even have a little bit of a Cliff moment there, or whatever they call it?
Oh, I'll have a bunch of those because I love these kids. Braxton's going to be a tough one. But you got Josh, you got Adolphus, you got some incredible ones. Taylor, they're incredible guys. So don't want to think about it, just got to go win this game.
And the other thing, like you just talked about a while ago, you haven't addressed, you haven't had that big talk with your team about the state of the do you see a team that is focused? I mean, is that why you haven't noticed distractions? I mean, what just stands out about this team in its, I guess, focus?
Well, I think there's identification of where we're not 9 strong yet, and we're working awful hard to get there. And it's not one unit. It's this game. It wasn't quite where we needed to be. And we're seeing a little bit of this, which I'm fine with that. If you see 2 or 3 dog units, we got a problem, like we had a couple years ago. We don't have that. We don't have that. Every once in a while, a unit does, and I feel in the room there's such an urgency to get that fixed. I think that's the term culture comes in, and so everyone's is very workmanlike and businesslike.
And last thing, will you not know until Saturday, midway through the second quarter or something, whether you've gotten fixed the pass protection problems?
That's going to be this group. You're going to very good defensive line, so that's going to be. I'll let you know when the clock strikes 0 after the game's over.
We do have one more question. Tino, go ahead.
Coach, just a little bit off topic in aspect of preparation, but how big of an impact will the atmosphere of the game, specifically the band plan for the game, Script, Ohio, impact the team in the last home game?
I think this probably, I can't speak for all schools, but this has to be one of the most unique places that our players know them. They respect them, and it's certainly, I expect that to stay. We're all performers, the band, and whenever I get a chance to go visit with the band or the cheerleaders and the spirit squad and everybody, we're all putting on a show in that stadium, and we all got a job to do. Sit there and make a huge impact.
Coach,
Thanks, guys.